Hi, Tria. I will be right back. Guys, be right in.
That's
Real
weird.
quick, can I just tell you guys how stupid I am? So, my boyfriend got one of those VR, the Oculus, right? Um, and he's like, "Here, try this. Let's try bowling." And so I have it in my hand, and you have got the glasses on. Um, like, what's wrong with like? I hit the wall, or no, I hit the desk. It's so bruised that like it looks like a birthmark. Can you believe? So that's my accident from the Meta Quest, and I'm too embarrassed, so I said I dropped a rower on my hand.
Oh, sorry, Courtney. That
Courtney.
was so painful.
I'm dying. I know it's
Are you doing all right though? Like that
fine.
looks
I'm just
okay.
so embarrassed. It's so pathetic. Molly, you're right.
Um, um,
Hi.
hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've been thinking a lot about how um I can pay it forward and just be helpful to everyone
Thank
that
you.
yeah. So I have some thoughts, and then we can take a bunch of introductions afterwards.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. So people are still trickling in. Can we give it like just another minute or so?
Yeah.
Is that
No rush on
okay?
my end. Yeah, no rush on my end.
Awesome. Thank you. Actually, let's make the most of our time. Hi, if it's your first time joining us, welcome. I see a couple new names in here. If you'd like to come off a video, that would be awesome. If you can't, no worries. Um, but we've got a really great hour today. So I will introduce Michael and Johnny, who are here from VimCal. VimCal was the first um, like calendar tool that was made for EAs, right? People that book on behalf of others. Uh, so really excited to have you guys here today. So I will hand it over to you guys, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much, Courtney. Hey everyone, I'm Michael. I'm the CTO of Cal. Like Courtney mentioned, our product is called VimCal EA, which is designed specifically for executive assistants. The way I was thinking about making the most out of our hour together is I want to show a demo of VimCal, and then I'll love to. We're always looking for feedback. I'd love to get everyone's feedback on it, and then afterwards, I want to walk through um, prompting. And for those of you who don't know, prompting is basically it's the quote unquote what people hit quote unquote, right? It's like the art and science of talking to your AI models. So a lot of the AIs out there, the Claude, OpenAI, all of that. I can give some kind of context as well as like intuition and motivation on why you should learn better prompting, and also kind of walk you through why prompting is important and kind of like show you what like a really good prompt looks like, and so you can like get better at it going forward. How does that sound to everyone?
Great.
Awesome. So starting off, let me just share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Cool. So this is VimCal. So let me just move a few things. Zoom is kind of getting in the way. You can see, you can use VimCal for yourself, right? And then you can also for your executive assistant, or if you're exec. So here we have Richard, who's our executive, and I'm sure, all these are test events, right? This is a test calendar, kind of just to show it's a demo calendar, and just to show, like, and I imagine or not imagine, we've seen a lot of exec calendars, and I would say this is almost on the low end of meetings, right? And this is just for one exec. So we support, you can use MCal for up to all the execs that you schedule for. So starting off, kind of the feature that we're known for is called slots. And when you're scheduling for people, it's a total nightmare, right? You're looking through, it's like, okay, this works for one, this is like 1:30, maybe this works, and you're typing it out. So on VimCal, you could actually just go boom, boom, right? And then you can say, okay, well, I know like Richard tends to work Saturday, so let's schedule after a soccer game. And also, this is not important. You can also schedule here, right? And we actually type all this out for you. So instead of you going in and like typing it out, you can just drag, 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 and right here, we handle it all for you. Something else that's cool is that we know a lot of internal meetings are not as important. So you can actually just toggle on, ignore internal once you set your domain, right? So which means after you set, what you consider as your internal domains, you can actually just schedule over internal meetings. So we can copy this, right? So let me drag Zoom. We can copy this, go to email, and then paste it in, right? Um, Furthermore, you can actually change the format, right? So let's say you're like, I want to bold the text, I want to make it all in one line, right? And then I want to abbreviate the dates. So it comes out great out of the box, but you can also customize this to however you like want to present these times. So that's, we can get pretty deep into this, but I want to spend just a little time talking on all our like core features. Something else we've learned from talking to many, many executive assistants is that, especially larger companies tend to schedule cross time zones, right? And especially time zones actually change quite a bit. So for example, in Arizona, there's two time zones in Arizona. Mexico City changed their time zone last year. Australia changed their time zone 2 years ago. You don't want to keep up with that, right? And then I know we've seen like, I mean, before building MCal, I personally used to go to a lot to like world time zone travel, and I'm looking at my time, seeing what the time equate to, and etc. Right? So in VimCal, you can actually just click time travel, and you can search for any time zone in the world. So you can search for the time zone itself, right? So let's go to Berlin, and now all your times are in Berlin time, right? And the shaded area are what we designate as work hours, and you can customize this, right? So I have it to 9 to 6, but you can set it to whatever time you want. You can actually show multiple time zones. I can show Berlin. I can also show London. So now you can see what the time is in Berlin and also what the time is in London, right? Um, and then not only can you search time, you can actually search for entire cities. So I'm from a city in China called Tianjin, right? So I can actually search for Tianjin, China. I don't even need to know what time zone is in. I can just press Tianjin, and now all my times are in Tianjin time, right? So our in VimCal, our features work well separately, but they work even better together. So let's say you are trying to schedule for someone in Berlin, right? So you can go to Berlin, you can open up slots. Sorry, let me move Zoom again. You can open up slots, and you can say, I want to send times here, oh, here, and here, right? So now you actually send all the slots in CET, which is Berlin's time zone. And you're like, well, I also want to show my time zone, right? In case you're scheduling with an EA who's in New York, you can just press this button, include all time zones. And now, and let me just make this a little easier to read, right? And now you actually show all the times in both EST and CET. So we've seen that this saves everyone a ton of time and it also makes it error prone, right? You don't have to worry about time zone changes. You don't have to worry about you getting like 1 hour off. Everything is done for you. So that's kind of, I would say that's our core feature. And then we can get deep into this, right? So we have personalized invites. So one last thing I want to show for slots is holds. Who here uses holds on a daily or at least weekly basis? Um, right. So I don't we've talked to a lot of EAs and some EAs use holds on sticky notes, some use it keep track on Google Docs, right? It is a nightmare. And it shouldn't be a nightmare. So for example, I can actually just go, let's say you're like, I want to create a hold here, I want to send this, I want to send these times, right? Just arbitrary times. Now you can actually toggle on holds and you can say, I want to say this is a hold for go Courtney, right? So when I create it, now the holds are automatically created, right? So let's say Courtney and I, we schedule a meeting. We're like, okay, like let's go 12 to whatever this time, right? And I just want to create, I don't want to actually send Courtney an event, right? So let's just pretend and then I'll send it to myself, right? Just so Courtney doesn't get bombarded with emails. And when I create this, you'll see that the holds have disappeared. So you no longer have to track these holds. We handle it all for you. And again, like the two things that we really hang our hat on right, which is we make it really fast and efficient. We save you time. But the other thing is that we make it so you don't make mistakes, right? We make it bulletproof for you. So those are two things we absolutely try to guarantee at Vencal. So I'm gonna delete this event. So that's really quickly, that's like maybe like the 120-second summary of slots and time travel. And I want to show you just like a few other things, right? And I'm gonna maybe go a little quicker on this just so we have time to go through for questions later. So one is templates. Or I guess like how many tend to use kind of the same template over and over and over again? So I see some head nods, right? Um, so something like, I imagine a really popular is like exec meeting, right? Instead of filling it out every time and copy pasting, you can actually just go to template, create the exec meeting, and now when you apply it, everything is applied for you, right? So in here I have me and my co-founder. I have like the agenda set, right? You can add any data you want, and now you just go exec meeting. I want to set it to 1:30, save, and it's done, right? So a lot of our customers, they have like 10, 20 templates, and they just like apply. And you don't have to have like Google Docs that keep track of everything and like copy paste, right? It saves you like 90% of the time of creating the same meeting over and over again. Cool. And then last thing I want to show, or sorry, I have three more, and then I'll be quick with this. Um, how many of you tend to schedule for um not for a lot of people, but rather schedule with a lot of people, right? So an example is like a board meeting, right? You might have like there's most big companies have like 10 plus board members, right? You're trying to schedule with them like what time works for them. So in VimCal, you can actually just go to group spreadsheet and say this time works, does this time work, this time work, and then let's do two more. And let's call this February board meeting, right? Um, and so I can create this, copy it, paste it. And now, right, let's say I am a board member. So now I live in New York. So all the times I just select I see in New York. But let's say I'm a board member and I live in, uh, what's a random city? Not random, but let's say Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Dallas, Texas. So now Dallas, Texas, and Chicago, I can select it. And now all the times are in Dallas time. So I can say, let's say I am board member one, just enter some random email, right? And I can say this works, however, will be in car, but can make this work, right? So I'm going to save it. And then let's pretend I'm board member number two now. I see this and I am in Hawaii, right? So now I see all these times in Hawaii. I see that, oh, this only works for this person. I can be board member two, and I can go, these work for me, right? Enter in some random email. Great. So now when let's say you everyone and you also you get an email when people have filled it out. So now let's say you go back to board member, right? You can create the event. You can go, okay, well this looks like the only overlap, right? You can create it, and now February board meeting will be created here, and all the members are already added as attendees. So this saves a ton of errors, saves a ton of times regarding scheduling across different time zones, across, like everything is like, I always say bulletproof. Bulletproof, it is intuitive and, allows you to do um, more important work that are more strategic, right? Instead of having to do these like manual work that like, quite frankly, like you shouldn't have to do. Um, Cool. So I want to, so okay, that's two more things. How many of you tend to schedule meetings with a ton of other people and their availabilities are totally crazy, right? Um, so we not only borrow, we made scheduling system in Outlook, but just made it better. And I'll show you kind of why or how that's the case, right? So in Outlook, right? Sorry, let me pick a different time. Oh, you know what? These none of these have attendees.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah. What's up?
So, in terms of scheduling with others, we obviously have our internal calendars, but what if we're going externally? Is there an issue with us receiving that the calendar info, or are they supposed to give us some sort of access? How does that work
You're talking about for this?
for just meeting setups? So for example, yeah, any of these
Yeah,
that we would use for setting up like a conglomerate of other attendees.
yeah. I mean, they don't need to be a Vimcal user, right? This is a link that you send through email, and then whoever you send it to can have access to this, right? Uh,
Okay. So
yeah.
we're sending them the link in order to get all of the info. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they don't need to be Vimcal users. We only need one person for all of this to work. Um, I don't know if I've actually added. Let me see. I wish I added more. Okay, maybe this is a good example. Okay, I should have set this up a little better. So we can skip this section, but essentially we have a feature that allows you to quickly see what people's availabilities are when you're creating an event, but I did not set this calendar well. So we can skip that part. Something we actually just released today. How many of you have a hard time seeing all your execs events, or at least multiple execs events? So something we released today is called hide events. So let's say you're like, this event isn't important, you can go hide. You're not deleting the event, you're just hiding it, right? So now when you create an event, it's much easier to see that this event is here, right? Um, you can toggle it on and off, you can toggle this off. So this is a way for you to declutter your calendar. So it makes it much easier to see the important events, and not have to worry about the ones that you don't really care about. Cool. I'll just show you guys one last thing and then open for feedback and questions. So these two are kind of coupled together. It's called tagging and metrics. So you'll see I have a lot of these like exec reviews, right? And how many of you guys tend to like color code your calendar? Not for your exec, but just color code it yourself, right? So for better management. We have this feature called uh, c- um, auto tagging or just tagging. So for example, I can say exec exec meeting. And I can tag, let's say I want to tag this to be flamingo, right? Orange. I can say as long as the title contains exec, I want to tag it, right? So now when I save it and I leave, you'll see that all the execs are now orange and or the exec reviews, right? And the best part about this is that this is only on your calendar. We are not tagging the exec's calendar. So when the execs see on their side, their calendar looks exactly the same, and only on your side do these events look orange. So this way, if you're into color coding, into tagging, it's really easy to see what's going on. And it's related to our feature called metrics. And so we actually create metrics for you, both for you and your exec. And we run this every Sunday. So you're not going to see exec review in here right now because I just created it, right? But every Sunday, we basically give you a report about how your exec spends their time. So, between one-on-ones, external, internal meetings, Swiss cheese, who they met with, etc., right? And then we're actually adding a feature we can export this in a PDF and send to your exec. So we're doing this on a weekly basis, and we're also going to do this on a monthly and quarterly going forward. Cool. That's roughly it. And we have a lot more features that I'm not going to get into now, but if you guys are interested, we offer one-on-one onboardings. That is, there's no like obligation to pay for anything, right? So you sign up, we're happy to give you an in-depth walkthrough of VimCal. Like for example, we have like dark mode, light mode support, we have focus mode. There's a ton of other features. I don't want to kind of get bombarded in the details for now. But yeah, any feedback, questions? We're always looking to get feedback from EAs.
Thanks, guys. I love that only one person has to have it. You mentioned about seeing like everyone's availability. That's assuming like you have like access to.
Yeah, right. So we live on top of Google and Outlook. So as long as you have permission on Outlook/Google, we have permission to read it, right?
Awesome.
So yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
I love the reporting. I love the analytics. I think a lot of us, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe down the road, like would you guys consider like something like the graphs are beautiful and the dashboard right there, it's gorgeous. Would you consider something like if to show like how if cadences were changed, like how much time would be saved, something like that? Like I think
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's I would love to see that. I would be
Yeah.
first in line.
So we're building something for quarterly reviews right now, and I'm happy to share maybe in like 2 weeks. I'm happy to share our update on that.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey Courtney, when it kind of sounds like you're touching upon the calendar audit that you shared, where it's kind of like if we readjust these recurring meetings, how much time would be saved? Is that what you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
just
that
think there's so many of us that want to deliver that kind of, you
Yeah.
know, to be able to deliver that kind of like, or at least show our executives, look, these are some potential areas that can save
Yeah.
time. I think that'd be huge, huge.
Yeah.
And I know it's not just me. I know a lot of us in here.
Yeah.
That's where the keys are.
We're definitely gonna give you guys a way to do that. Yeah, so like we're
Love it.
literally building that out right now. So in a handful of weeks I should have something to show. And
that was a very impactful moment when you shared that. So it
yeah,
is very much top of mind.
yeah.
Oh, it's so
And,
awesome. I love
yeah,
it.
we'll love to give you guys like maybe like a kind of a preview of what we built when we feel like
Oh,
it's kind of roughly
love
ready.
it. Love it. Who else? Who's got any questions? You can just come off of mute.
Mike, there's a question about regarding VimCal EA, whether we're assuming the EA has access to everyone's calendars in order for it to work. That's we kind of need access to the calendar.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we are huge in security. So regardless of whatever company you work at, we can almost guarantee we have the security certificate ready. And we're happy to share that as a zip file.
Yes.
And part of that is that if again we live on top of Google and Outlook, right? So if you have permission to something on Outlook/Google, we have permission through it. And I think in the worst case, if Microsoft gets hacked, right, that is like, but I think that's like a much bigger issue than us.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's something we have to worry about.
So I know a lot of us before we, go to our executives to propose something, they want to see securities at the top for everyone,
Yeah.
right? That's their instant no. Do you have like a doc that you could share with us, like to so we can
Yeah.
prepare
Um,
for those of us that want to,
yeah, Johnny, do you mind sharing that in
or
the
just if you want to send it after if it's easier, and I can distribute it for those that are
This
interested.
is for the security docs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll send the security page, a case study page as well. I think
Awesome.
those two
Thanks.
things.
Yeah, I've gone into my bosses before and I've been like, here's all the value it will add. And they're like, well, what about, Hawk dot whatever? I have no idea about security.
Yeah.
So like they would ask, and then I'm like, I don't know. So it would allow us to like go in prepared.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, anything else? Like any feedback, questions?
Any feedback from anyone? Suggestions,
Is there a
questions?
way to send out company holidays to the exec calendars we support and our calendar? Because that is missing in Outlook.
I don't know if I'm totally following that question.
Need to send.
I can explain it. So the situation is we have holidays for the year, and there's not an easy way to add those holidays into the calendar. I manually go in and make an entry.
Mm.
There is like US holidays, but the company holidays are a little different than the US standard holiday calendar. So that's the idea.
Yeah. Um, Unfortunately, we don't have like a feature for that only because that's really contextualized to the company and it's hard for us to kind of like a general solution. Yeah, I mean, it's something we've experienced ourselves, but yeah, unfortunately, it's just not something we can kind of like support for kind of like a general solution for that works for most people, just because it's so contextualized.
This actually kind of sounds like just creating a new calendar that's called company holidays, and then you would just have all day events on the relevant dates. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're talking about?
So I'm just saying, like, if you're asking for feedback, that's a feedback that I have that, like, let's say it's the new year, it's 2026. So how do I put in all of the company holidays into my calendar and my executive's calendar? In Outlook, I think there is like US holiday calendar, but the issue with that is that those aren't my company holidays. We have
Yep.
some different ones like Juneteenth and other
Hmm.
things going on. So I'm just giving you this as feedback for
Yep.
ideas. Like if there was a way maybe to create a template where you just, put in all your company holidays and then you can apply that template to your calendar and your
Yep.
executive calendar. That was my suggestion.
Yeah. No,
Got it.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think I maybe misunderstood that. That's a great suggestion. We'll add it to our backlog for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I have two trains of thoughts on that. One is, I guess, really what we're trying to do is an easier way than like having to manually create each each all day event for the whole year. So we do have a feature where you can take a screenshot of like um, available times,
Yeah,
uh,
I
and
can.
then
Yeah.
actually that should be a feature we we should show
Uh,
because
you
that
guys.
sounds like something relevant to this too.
Yeah. So, can you guys see my screen again?
Yeah.
So we have this is like one of our AI features, and I want to make a caveat that all our AI features go through Anthropic, and we have a zero retention policy with them. So whatever data you share with us, we don't share with anyone else. So an example would be like, let's say your exec gets like an email or text message, right? Does coffee tomorrow or whatever work? You could just drag that in, we parse it, and then we show you the available times here. And you can be like, well, okay, well, this meeting is busy, but let's say you're like, I can schedule it here. You click, and then you just schedule it. And that's it. So instead of like reading, looking at the page, trying to find times, right? And we can make this really expansive. You can add time zones in here. You can add other things, and it would all work. Um, yeah. And I actually think this is a really good segue into prompting. Um, any other questions? And if not, then maybe I can go through. Um, yeah, and then Johnny, do you also mind sharing the link for the sign up link with Courtney's referral on it?
Guys.
Cool, thank you. Any other feedback, questions? If not, then maybe I can kind of go to part two of this. Cool. So let me share my screen again. That is the last slide. So sorry, Zoom is so hard to drag. Great. Okay, so I want to go through prompting, and I kind of want to I want to give some motivation for learning to prompt, right? I think it's really important to I think it's really important to have a intuition about why you're learning the things you're learning, right? As well as kind of how to build on it. My dad was a college professor, and I think that's something he's drilling me really early on, which is like, it's important to learn, but it's even more important to figure out what you should be learning and why you're learning it. So I want to develop some motivation, intuition on why you should be learning how to prompt. I want to give some context on AI models. Very brief. There's not going to be any math, and nothing too complex, but I think it's enough. We're going to have an understanding about why this is important. I'm going to go through how to prompt well. We're going to go through some walkthroughs and examples. And at any point, you can cut me off and ask questions, and we'll have a wrap up, follow up, wrap up, summary, and then room for questions at the end as well. Cool. Yeah, let's get started. So what is prompting, right? Prompting is the art and science of communicating with artificial intelligence systems through carefully crafted text instructions to guide them through producing useful, relevant, accurate responses. And a few things to note here or the key words are, right, it's art and science, and especially art. What I mean by that is that the more you practice, the more you prompt well, the more you're going to get better at these things, right? There is a muscle memory aspect to it. There's developing taste for prompting. And I kind of think about it in terms of sports, right? If you're practicing the wrong way, you're not going to get better. But if you're practicing the right way, then eventually, you are going to get to like an expert level of prompting. Cool. Motivation for learning to prompt. Why should you care, right? Why should you care why should you care that you should learn how to prompt? And not just because, some random guy from BIMCal said you should. So one, most AI tools still revolve around text to generate output, right? So, the models, for example, right? Like this part, the models, and I'm sure you hear a lot of names and models out there like Claude 3.7, OpenAI o1, o3, o many. It's just there's so many things. You like which one do you use? Like which one do you learn, right? There's so many products to learn. And also, I think this the most important last part is that it can feel like you learn one thing, and then the next week what you've learned feels archaic, right? And in science, there's a term called half-life, right? Which is like how long it takes for something to decay, for half of it to decay. And it feels like, especially now with all these AI advances, the half-life of whatever you're learning is only getting shorter and shorter. And I want to give some context now, and I'll circle back to why prompting has a significantly longer half-life. So if you just stay with me, we'll get back to the original point, right? So why does prompt have a longer knowledge half-life? All of these models that are popular today, you can think about Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Grok, etc., are all large language models. Almost all modern LLMs, which are abbreviations for large language models, are trained through this architecture called the transformer architecture. You don't have to remember any of these details, but I think it'll help you kind of develop an intuition about this. And all of this architecture mimics the human brain. And in some ways, learning to prompt better is like learning the fundamentals of AI. And this is going to help you no matter what models come out in the future, whether it's next month, next year, 2 years from now, what you've learned it's only going to compound, right? You're not going to start from zero every time going forward. So this is this is like a very baby version of a transformer model, right? And you'll probably think like, this kind of looks like you're like a neuron in a brain, right? If you've seen like images of brains, whatever, the little synapses, it kind of looks like that. So there's two parts. There is a forward pass and a backward pass. And again, you don't have to remember any of this. This is just pure context. And I'll point out the important parts. The forward pass is how the model learns from the data that you input it, and the backward pass is how they correct the model and tweak it. And this is an important part. For the backward pass, a large portion of it is through this thing called reinforcement learning from human feedback, which they literally have people telling the models, hey, this is wrong, this is right, this is good, this is bad. And a huge portion of this reinforcement is through prompting, right? So I think hopefully now we're going to get an understanding is like by better prompting, you're kind of using the same system that it's actually learned from. So a core part of training these models in general is from prompting. So cool, prompting is involved. So what, right? And I want to have some analogies to kind of how humans, and I think they're in some ways they're actually really similar to living things, right? So similar to our brain, if you learn something in one context, it's much easier to remember what you've learned in the same context. What's an example of that? If you learn something in English and I ask you an answer to that thing you just learned in Chinese, you're probably going to really struggle with answering that, right? So context is really important for anything that we learn, right? And I think there's, there's an analogy that like if you learn in a room in one room, it's much easier for you to recall that if you're in the same room. When you prompt well, you're actually activating a subsection of the model, and the activated model is more focused, right? So an example would be it's much easier for you to answer something if you are not doing anything else, right? If you're dribbling a basketball and like, doing something else and I'm asking you a question, it's gonna be way harder for you to answer the question, even if you know the answer to it. That's kind of analogous to this. Finally, by prompting really well, you're using less context so the model can think more efficiently and better. And what that means is that they can focus, instead of trying to trim out the parts of their knowledge graph that they don't need to know, they're able to focus on the key things you're asking them. Cool, so let's continue. Tie everything together, right? And this is before we actually get into the prompt, and hopefully by now there's a rough understanding of like why this is important, right? So what will change frequently? These are things that's going to change tomorrow, a week, a month, a year from now. The models will keep getting better. Their names will change. They're going to be able to take in more information and give back more information. That's almost just like table stakes, right? But what will not change? The architecture will probably not change. The last time the architecture changed one of these things was like almost 10 years ago, right? These things do not change very often. And the principle behind these models have not really changed. And in some ways, the models we're using now in the architecture is still the same ones that we used in like 1960s. Just to kind of give some like context to this, right? Cool. So how do we prompt? What makes a good prompt? This is written by one of the co-founders of OpenAI. And I'm going to go into each one in detail, but let's just focus on the big subsections. The goal, the four big subsections are the goal, the return format, the warnings, and the context dump. And we'll go into each one of these in detail. I just kind of want to show this. And maybe I'm showing this because I think even a lot of engineers, a lot of people don't actually know how to prompt really well. So by learning this and by getting better at this, you're going to be ahead of 99.9% of people out there, right? So this is like a real skill that's going to carry with you for years and years and years on end. And going back to the art part, by starting now and by practicing the right way, you're going to build a competitive edge that's going to be really hard for you to overcome. Let's walk through, let's do a walkthrough with some examples. So the goal, what do we want the AI to return? Some helpful tips is that it can be really helpful to give it a persona. So for example, let's say you're looking to book a travel itinerary for your exec. It can be really helpful to say, you are an expert and a well-researched travel planner who specializes in finding boutique hotels in Amsterdam, right? Again, you want to be hyper-focused about what you're looking for, what is the goal, right? And the next part is like, give me the list of top 10 hotels we recommend for my team for our annual executive offsite. So what's good about this prompt? You are giving the model a persona, so they know you're activating a very specialized part of the model. You're explicitly telling them what you want it to do, and you're telling them exactly what you want, right? The return format. The return format is important because this could save you, it could save you a lot of time, right? If you're looking for a list and it returns a paragraph, you're gonna have to do all that work yourself. Two is that you can actually save on context. And like you said before, it's more focused. It can actually be more focused on the things that's important to your goal. So what do you want the data to look like? Do you want a CSV, which is a comma separated value, which you can paste in Excel? Do you want a paragraph description? Do you want a list? It can be really helpful to use what I call internet standards, because all these models are all trained off the internet, right? So if you're exporting something, you want to say things that the model can understand, which is CSV. If you're talking about time zones, you want to use like the internet standard for time zone, which is ISO, whatever, right? And kind of as an example, the feature I showed before in VimCal, right? This is something we like in our own prompt, we use this. And using tools like VimCal can be really helpful here. This is a little bit of a shameless plug. But instead of looking at all these time zones yourself, right, and like trying to prompt really well, like we've done the hard work for you, and you can just go into VimCal, and then we will get you the answer. And this is like we've stress tested this. But yeah, just to show like this is stuff that we use, and also stuff, and there are tools that you can use that for very specific tasks that will give you the answer without you having to do the work that someone else has done. So yeah, so last point, most of the data is trained on internet knowledge, so it can be really helpful if you speak its language. Warnings. I think this is something that almost no one adds in their prompt. I think it's really, really important. Hallucinations are a thing. You can reduce it, but you cannot prevent it. And if you figure out a way to prevent it, there's probably $1 billion waiting for you. And if anyone tells you that if they're using an LLM and they're telling you that, hey, like there's no hallucination, they're lying to you. That is a fact. At least as of today, that is a fact. But what's interesting is that if you know where humans tend to mess up, the AI will probably mess up in the same way because of the data training, right? So this is a place to call it out. Going back to our hotel example, it can be really helpful to say, hey, make sure that the hotel is in a safe area of the city with low crime rates and has restaurants within a half a mile radius, right? So instead of the AI model just giving you boutique hotels everywhere in Amsterdam, right? Like you probably want it somewhere in a safe area that's open. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, right? Like I should have added the open part, but maybe they're off in September when you're planning this, but you want to make sure it's open, it's in a safe area with low crime rates. So anywhere that you feel like a human travel planner could make a mistake, this is where you want to add it. Context dump. So this is where you want to share with the AI everything that you know. So continue with the hotel example, you can say, hey, in 2024, our offsite was at XYZ and everyone loved it because ABC. However, in 2023, we booked a place, right? Just place, and it was not received because of whatever. This is going to help the AI understand what you're looking for further and give it additional context that's not going to have from the goal, right? There's like implicit knowledge that it's going to get from this context dump. I wouldn't worry so much about the verboseness of it as long as you call out that this is a context. The more context you share, the more focus and the better the answer is going to be. So let's summarize all of this up, right? Like anything else, it's really important to learn the fundamentals. It's cool to learn the latest and greatest AI tools, but without the fundamentals, it's really hard to separate the hype from reality. Prompting is going to be an essential part of AI for years to come and will only get more important. And finally, by getting good at prompting, you're going to be able to compound on your AI skill set. I added my LinkedIn here. It was in my email. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email. Genuinely, I love talking to EAs. We love talking to like our users. If you have any questions, I'm happy to deep dive more into this individually. So definitely connect with me. Definitely shoot me a message. I am available.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we love talking anything calendar. That's EAs. That's our yeah, we love it. So thanks so much for your time. And I have a question regarding like the prompting that you were talking about. So does it really do you really see a difference? Like I'll use the example of the travel, like where you're doing the persona. So if I were to just ask it to give me 10 potential hotels for an offsite in Amsterdam, like would you see a difference in the quality of the output by assigning it that persona? Really?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, like it is. So
yeah.
So here's a really interesting thing. most times traditionally in computer science research, the way that people do research is like you tweak some code, right? And you get some output, right? It's very much like deterministic, and it's very much what you would think of like traditional computer science research. For LLMs, what's really interesting is actually more similar to bio research, where you do something and you're like, I don't really know what's going to happen, right? And it's right, like so you think like Pavlov's, whatever. He's like, you have an inkling, but you don't really know what's going to happen. So it's actually way more similar to bio research. And if you think about it in terms of behavior research, it's you have to like if you read any kind of psychology papers, it's really important to like preempt your researchy so that they know kind of like the task at hand. And I think that's kind of where the analogy is, but it makes a huge difference, right? Um, and I'll say like on a personal example, I'm a big nerd. I'm happy to admit that, and I'm trying to like learn some math on the side, kind of as a hobby. And when I say you are a like when I'm talking to when I'm talking to you AI to help me with my studies, part of it, I always say you are an expert tutor who specializes in this book, and you explain to me as if I'm this person. And without that context, the response is like so much worse.
Yeah, thanks for that. I need to start using that more then, obviously. Thank you. Ilka had a question, and then I'm gonna circle back to a question from the chat. Go ahead, Ilka.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. My question is about the travel example. So you're using like the internet feature of the LLM to come up with all the hotel options. And my question is, do you have a recommendation? I know this is going to change in the future, like what now currently is going to give the best results?
Yeah.
And I have the free version of Chat GPT. I know there's Gemini, Claude. I also use Perplexity. So my understanding was Perplexity is the best for internet searching, but I'm just curious
Yep.
if you have any feedback right now on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I definitely do. So, I will say this is how I personally use it, and again, I'm just one data point. You're right that when I am searching for things on the internet, especially for like quick these responses, right? I personally go to Perplexity, and I'll even show you. I'll share my screen, right? So first of all, this is kind of like the math stuff, right? You're an expert math tutor, and like this is this is like from earlier today. Like I truly use this myself. But yeah, you see all my pin bars, like I have OpenAI, I have Perplexity, and they all kind of are like really good at their own thing. So for your example, where you're searching on the live internet, Perplexity is like I found it to be the best. Um, for really like verbose explanations of things, I find Claude to be the best. For coding, I think Claude is the best. OpenAI, they have that deep research. I think that's the best out there in the game right now. But I think what maybe taking a step back, what's good about prompting is that once you get really good at prompting, you're gonna have a good understanding of like what's good and what's bad, right? Because instead of like you're gonna have a measuring stick. Because without good prompting, it's really hard to understand what the measuring stick is. Um, yeah, sorry, that's kind of answering your question, also answering a question you didn't ask.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone's asking if you can bring up this slide about the data dump.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that again. Also, if you're okay with sharing the deck after, I've offered it already to everybody.
Yeah. 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 I'll send it with Johnny's email. So if you just give me
Awesome. Yeah, no
that.
rush, no rush
Yeah.
at all. Thank you so much. And then I'll share it with everyone
Yeah.
that's asked.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, here's your slide. Anyone else have any? Okay.
I'm, I'm who asked the question, Courtney. So I'm
Yeah.
super literal, like to a fault, literal. And anyway, so when you're saying about the context dump, do you say to the tool, this is going to be a context dump, and then you put
Exactly.
everything? Okay,
Exactly. Yeah. You
that's,
literally want, yeah. So let me go back
thank you.
to the like literally you want to separate it and you're like for context or like below is the context for this or here is the context below, right? Like you want to explicitly say this is a context, right? And this is a
Okay.
warning. Like the more it's all the way I think about it is like AI is like the smartest 8-year-old, right? So you want to, it's like a genius 8-year-old. But you want to give it really, really good instructions, right? Like I used to coach like youth basketball, and one of the things I've learned is that you gotta be explicit, you gotta repeat yourself, right? So it does not hurt to repeat yourself. It does not hurt to be like, make sure you see this, make sure you read this. By the way, make sure you read this, right? And the more you highlight something, the more it's gonna be like, oh shit, this is important. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss there, but
Okay.
so you
Okay,
want
perfect.
yeah, you want to be explicit, but like that, what you're saying, that's a real skill set, right? A lot of people try to be kind of hand wavy with it, but you want to be like explicit.
Oh yeah, I mess with it all the time to see what it's capable of. And so I push it, but I just wasn't sure about like if I actually need to tell it this is the context dump. So that's it.
You 100% have to. Otherwise, it's going to be like, I don't know if this is context or the prompt or the goal, right? You want to be like, this is the context, and then it's gonna treat it like the context.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Also, I love your tool, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Someone's asking, I heard the information is not current. It's from 2022. So I think she's asking about ChatGPT, the
Being
um,
trained on past data
yeah.
and that the
Oh,
information is not
no,
current.
ChatGPT, that was probably true in 2023. I would say for the most part, most of these models are trained within the last 3 months. They continuously train it. So behind this, I mean, I don't know how technical we want to get, but if you use their developer API, they literally have the train date. But the consumer version that regular people use, like it's you can almost assume it's been trained the last 3 months.
I think that was like when it first came out, right? Like to the public.
Yeah, but now like they can train. Yeah, not to get super technical, but you can just assume that 3 months is like a really safe estimation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, so much. Like the data dump, or I mean the context, the personas. I've read about persona, but I never thought like it would really make a difference. But I'm glad to hear your perspective, and I will definitely be using that more.
Yeah, and I know it can feel quite ridiculous to add all that context. And I think one way to think about it is like, either you put in the work early or you put in the work later, right? So
Yeah.
it's one way or the other. You're gonna have to write all this. So you might as well do it
Yeah.
early. Um, yeah.
So super quick example, guys. So like I mentioned last week, I'm being sued. My dog bit someone. The woman like lunged at my dog's face like she was gonna bite it. It sounds crazy, but
All
anyway,
right.
so now I'm being sued. And so I was like typing and trying to decide if I need to like, sell my life and like pay for an attorney or if I can do it myself. So I was, going back and forth with ChatGPT, and I said, oh, I forgot to mention, the lease said no dogs. And then they're like, oh, that changes everything. Like basically, long story short, you're screwed. Like you're gonna die. Everything's gonna be taken from you. And then I was like, hold on, just calm down. So I gave it like context of everything that happened that day and how I have the vet letter and the this letter and the doctor letter, and like I'm not so panicked anymore. But like, had I not given it like all of that context, like about the valets who saw and that it's on camera and things like that. So it really did make a difference rather than me just asking like a general, like, well, I'm being sued, like, and you should never rely on that for legal
Yeah.
advice. But just saying, like the context really did make a difference.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. If I would say like the most important thing out of those three, right, is like I would say almost context is almost more important. Like I would say the goal is like the most important thing, right? Otherwise, it's like it doesn't know where it's going. And I think context is almost the second most important thing. If you are going to take shortcuts, and I do this as well, right? So it's just human nature. I would say goal, context, and then um, warning. I would say goal, context, return format, warning. If there's a hierarchy, those are the four.
And persona falls in under context, I guess.
It falls under the goal. So you always want to start off with, great question, Johnny. You always want to start off with like part of the goal is like this is you're an expert, whatever. This is yeah, and then you're trying to get the goal from that.
I can't wait to play and like test
Yeah,
it. Thank
it
you.
truly makes a huge difference. So I'm excited to get your feedback and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned that you're willing to for anyone that wants to like dive deeper into VimCal that you guys will meet like one-on-one to do like a more in-depth demo
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah. So
just reach out to you on
yeah, just reach out
LinkedIn
to
or
me.
through the website.
Johnny, do you mind sharing my LinkedIn and email?
I have done so. I will do so again.
Thank you. And then I think Johnny's also keeping track of those that share their emails. We can also reach out. But yeah, and then I can also I've been again like I've been really thinking a lot about how I can pay it forward. So I have some other ideas I think would be really helpful. But this is yeah. Hopefully if hopefully you guys found this helpful.
No, we love it. Thank you. It was definitely helpful. Yeah, just really grateful for your time. Thanks so much. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
definitely.
And the security, if you could share that after, that'd be awesome. And yeah, it's Annie. I looked at you and thought of it. I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, thanks
I'm
so much.
actually
And then,
I'm going to be scheduling a demo with you guys. I'm just coordinating with my other colleagues, I have two colleagues, so it's just been a little busy, but
Yeah,
we
no,
will be in
no worries.
touch.
Awesome. Thank you. We're really looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Um, Cool. If there's no other questions, then yeah, want to give some time back, and then I'll definitely want to be back in the near future.
yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for your time. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, guys.
That was great.
Yeah, for sure. Like I have to admit, like when he was talking about the personas, like in my head, I was like rolling my eyes, like it's not necessary. But like that shows you what I know. I don't know anything, and I'm excited to like I learned when I was writing the script. Like obviously, the more descriptive I was, like the better, the more time it's going to save. There's not that going back and forth and back and forth. So, um, I just got a great tip, and I'm super excited for that. So.
But it's ever evolving, right? So I feel like there's always going to be a tweak.
Yeah, but I think that that's like this, the going to be like a staple. Like it sounds like that I've been missing out on. So
Right.
excited. Okay, let's do our usual like go around. What does anyone use AI for anything awesome this week or where it was super helpful? We have 5 minutes to share. So if you have to jump off, no worries. But otherwise, let's just talk about what we used it for this week.
Oh, sorry.
No.
So one of the things that I did, I was working on some challenging travel, and the AI that I'm allowed to use within the company is Copilot. And from past meetings, and now I'm really glad I get to hear today, talking about context and that kind of thing. So yesterday when I was putting this complicated thing together, my boss likes aisle seats, he likes this, he likes that kind of thing, right? And so I asked Copilot if it could hold that information so I could reuse it over and over, and it can't. And I was like, really? That's a pain. So now what I'm experimenting with is creating prompts in like a list of prompts and a list of, because I know, Courtney, you mentioned that for your boss, you wanted to create voice, right? And so I thought, oh, that would be so cool to be able to do that. And so to put those kind of prompts just into a document where I could go and copy and paste it in and then say, so this is the voice, I guess. And now the next thing would be, here's my context. Can you give me this format? And I was experimenting with that yesterday, and it actually worked out really well. I was quite pleased.
That's awesome. So we're actually working on that like right now for the website.
EAwiz.
EAwiz, it's very close, but the
Yay.
prompt database is going to be like I don't have it up right now, but it's going to be just broken down by category and then a listing of prompts like that just of a variety of prompts that would for each category. But we'll also have like a submit your prompt type deal, and we can like grow it, to be really like robust, and yeah, super excited about that. But thanks, Carla. Mayumi?
Um, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi. I just got finally onboarded to the Copilot, and I used it for the presentation, like a slide creation, and it was nice that the Copilot can suggest to me the structure or the best sentences when I'm typing the slide, each slide. Uh, And I like to actually request if someone who is very familiar with the Copilot can do like a summary of the productivity tips for Copilot specifically, if possible, in one of those AI sessions.
Yeah, we can at least dedicate like a part of one of the upcoming sessions to Copilot. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. And thank
Yeah,
you.
but
And go ahead.
also so far I've been using only 1 week, but I'm comparing when I give the same prompt to Copilot and ChatGPT, how does it work? Because my company is a little more sensitive about security. They do not want us to use ChatGPT in the company device.
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't experimented much, but ChatGPT provide much more holistic information, and then also easy to follow. And that's how I feel. And I'm very curious to know how other people are feeling.
Yeah, I'll let someone else jump in who uses Annie. I think you use
Yeah, I
Copilot.
have both
Yeah,
actually. My
Annie's gonna
company,
jump in here.
yeah, my company, so I believe my company has I have both licenses. I have Copilot and ChatGPT, but the ChatGPT I believe is a secure ChatGPT for our company. And then Microsoft Copilot is also, I mean, we have the option to search within work. There's a tab at the top that says work or web. So you can look outside at the web or you can look internally
Mhm.
on your intranet and whatnot, and SharePoint and files. So personally, I'm finding that ChatGPT is a bit more uh, robust in its in what it provides. And for example, I had taken an email, and I decided I wanted to just check and see. I wanted to compare what the two did, and I asked it to polish it up in both Copilot and ChatGPT. And ChatGPT made it sound much more polished and professional, whereas Copilot almost repeated a lot of what I had originally said. So it wasn't, so I use it. It's still, but then I've used it. It's still good, but I find that ChatGPT is a little bit better, but it's ever evolving. So, and I think you'll be okay with Copilot for the time being. Oh, and productivity tools. I don't know about you, but our workplace technology group created a whole AI hub page on our intranet, and basically posted links to many resources. And I think there was a productivity tools link as well. So you might want to reach out to them to see if they can provide you with any information that way. And also you can ask Copilot and say, what can you do for me? And tell them, what your role is and what you do, be specific as we just learned, and then see what it comes back with.
Thanks, Annie.
That's a good
Does that
idea.
help?
Mhm.
Thanks. Lynn is asking, and doesn't Copilot only reference internal docs? So Annie, again, I'm going to let you jump in here, but it's my understanding that definitely a version of Copilot that
Yeah,
for
I think it's I don't know if it's 365, Microsoft 365 that has this. Like I said, I have a license that allows me to search within, or internally, and then also on the web. So I'm not sure which version that is, because I have to tell you, it's been called a few different things, so it's a little confusing.
Yeah, we can ask ChatGPT or anything, but I think Copilot, as a default setting, you can choose when you like search something within the organization or outside, and that is depend on the setting. But even you do the outside, each platform have a different language running model. Like GTP is different from the Gemini as well. So between the Copilot and ChatGPT, I think Copilot is much less advanced in natural language processing. When you are doing something directly in the Microsoft, like I was just doing a PowerPoint presentation, I don't even have to open any prompt. Copilot just popping up like, do you want to summarize this? Do you want to put the image in here and stuff? So that was really handy.
you. Love it. Oh, I just want to share. Thank you. Thank you, Annie and Amy. I just want to thank Molly for her LinkedIn post on the Aragon AI for headshots. Um, and I saw Molly's logged in on 3 devices somehow, so I was gonna make a joke like we get
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
I was gonna say we get it, your headshot's great, but like to be funny, but like then it reminded me, no, really, like so your post, I'd use one of those other AI like headshot sites, and oh my God, like the results, and I paid the most to get the most like options, and my face like horrified me. And so Molly, I'll put it in the chat. Um, like this is great. ARAG. I paid 65. I got like the highest plan because I wanted to choose. I'm so used to like looking crippled and like, like little whatever. So Aragon.ai. So I got the biggest plan and like I am obsessed with my headshot. Like I love it.
It looks good. I noticed it earlier.
Thank you.
How am I connected so many times?
Molly, how many computers do you have? Hold on, I'm going to show you guys.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Am I only on one now?
Whoa.
Whoa.
You're on echo.
Hello. I'm logging back in. Now am I only here once?
Yes.
Oh, jeepers creepers, folks. I'm so
You
sorry.
and your multiple personalities were
Oh my goodness. Because I had 2 webinars going. So I've got another webinar over here. I've got this. And then I'm just all over the place.
Yeah.
But a little thing. So when we were talking to them, and he was talking about, the prompt and making sure that you include everything in the prompt. So I'm totally aligned with that. But I hadn't thought of this and I just tested it. I don't know if you guys saw my post about using text expanders. Because the text expander is copy and paste basic, I just created a text expander that I could put into ChatGPT prompt, just put prompt period, and it populates for me. And then I just have to fill it in. So that way I'll always remember to do it in that formula.
Mm.
Boom.
Boom. A recruitment agency or headhunter that they can recommend. For a recruiter or I guess it's the same thing.
Hi, yeah. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Sorry about that. I'm at a workshop and there's 80s music competing with you right now. So basically, what's going on is unfortunately there's a lot of reorganization happening where I work, and a lot of the admins have been impacted. One of the things that my company did was they offered a voluntary severance package for the admins and the EAs to take. And many of them have been with the company like over 10 years, et cetera. So they don't really know how to go about outside of LinkedIn, how to get a job or get some guidance. And back in the day, there used to be headhunters. I don't know if anyone still uses headhunters or recruitment agencies or placement agencies that they know of that they can recommend so that I can pass it on to the admins in my ERGs.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many in New York. Go ahead, Molly.
That's my favorite. Carla already just put it, Tech Advisor. That's my favorite. Megan, she's awesome. Megan Strout.
Have you guys ever like gotten an interview out of like, have you heard back from someone that you applied for through TAC? Anyone?
I have not used TAC for that specific service. I am using TAC for executive coaching. So I have a coach that I've been working with for the last 2 years that is fantastic. But I do connect with Megan a couple of times a year just to chat. I'm not looking for a job, so I don't feel like I could really speak to that.
So that's who I got my coach through too. So I wonder if we have the same coach. That's so funny. But when I was doing executive coaching, that's who I used that service with. And they also helped do, interview prep for me. They've helped me do my resume. I mean, I would say all of their services are fantastic there.
What service was that?
TAC, TACK Advisors.
And I'm sorry, did you say Megan was the person that you worked with?
She's the owner, founder of Tech Advisors.
Oh, okay.
She's just fantastic. She's just the person I've dealt with the most. They've grown a lot, so you would probably, enter through and work with one of the associates, I'm sure.
Or intake. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks, guys. I wish we could stay on all day.
I know. I feel like I'm delaying the inevitable.
I know. Damn, I'm like, any questions?
But I have to say, I really love the tools. I don't feel like I have any chance of using that at my company. Because I mean, I was just trying to get a greeting card, group greeting approved, and that was like a hard no. I'm like, really? Come on. But it's amazing, and it does all the things that I really wish I had, particularly what was discussed today, because I do exactly what they demoed today using a spreadsheet. And I had shared that earlier with Ilka, and I just wish I could use it. So I'm very envious of all of y'all who are able to do that.
Like I think it's worth talking to them. Like, I mean, for you to say like everything they talked about are things that you like. I just think what it comes down to is that like, leadership doesn't realize like what our jobs entail, right? And how many hours a day, like all these budget meetings that they have to talk about, like comp and this and that. Well, like everyone's got an EA, and like if I feel like if they just listen to us more on like the time that could be saved. But I think it's also like on us to go to them, and like but be prepared, because like I've gone to them before and like I don't know what like I said, like Hawk.642Q. Like I don't know these security protocols, but like I think if we went in like what's the word? Well, prepared, say, with potential. And Annie, didn't you just do this with you took a Execify, right? Like you went to your leadership to talk about.
Yeah, when they first presented to us, I wanted to sign in, and in order to sign in, it required all these permissions.
Yeah.
So, Carla, in the same vein, it's my company is very strict with security. So when I showed him what they were asking, he said nope. But they were close to, he's like, they're not there yet, but they're close. So I guess we have something in, they have what's criteria that needs to be met. So
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, administrative professionals, Julie Prime, not too long ago, did an amazing thing, and I've got all the documents that they shared after. And for me, this was amazing. Like, there's an ROI calculator that she provides. It's already formulated, the slides, how to do a business case. I mean, honestly, data doesn't lie. And if you can say, I'm literally, and quantify it, like I'm saving this many hours, which equates to this dollar amount. That's, and as long as it does, it satisfies the IT, legal, compliance, I mean, all of the things. And if you hand it to them already like done and researched and say, these were the questions that I asked, this is how I vetted it, what's missing, all these things, and it's all up front, it helps greatly. Like I've had to do that many times, but this is a really great resource if anybody needs it.
Yes, Molly, thank you so much. I actually am rebuilding a wheel, trying to do just that, what you just described. Do you mind? Because honestly, my brain is starting to bleed a little sometimes, and it's so hard to know quite how to do it. So if you don't mind, do you have my email address?
I don't mind. It was a free webinar that I attended, and this is all of the stuff that they sent me after the fact. So I believe I am allowed to share it, given that it was a
thank
free
you so
webinar.
much.
At least I'm comfortable with it. So
Molly, can you set your price just to give me like share access to your like to your files? Like, because
I've been working on my EA treasure trove, which is 23 years of SOPs.
Oh, it would be Disneyland just to jump in for an hour. It'd be like a shopping spree.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We've gone over. I probably need to go work.
Thank you.
Adrian, send me an email so I don't forget.
Will do. Thank you,
everybody.
Oh, hey, I need a topic for next week, so send me an email and if you have an idea or suggestion. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Bye, Christine. It's good to see you every week.
Hi, it's good to see you too.
Good. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.